Today I'd like to talk about the art of camo. And I've got a few things written down. These are the things you really need to think about if you're planning on camming up. The reasons for this is if you don't think about these, you're going to be seen. Just plain and simple. So the art of camo, pretty much these are the main things you need to think about. That's one. First thing, we'll talk about motion. Now, if you're running through the woods, the human eye and most animals even, we're attracted to motion. That's what gets you noticed. If you're moving fast, or even if I were to twitch, like let's say I went like that, just to scratch myself, that'll actually give you away. You need to be absolutely still, mostly, because when you're looking at the natural woods, trees don't run. So if you're trying to look like a tree, you can't be moving. So motion is one of your main giveaways. It's probably one of the biggest giveaways. I would say also sound would be the other giveaway. That's the most simple thing to give you away would be those two things just right there. Now we're going to get into a little bit more complicated. That's texture, color, reflections, shadow, silhouette, and shape. Okay, a lot of S's there. And the reason you need to think about all those is when you go out in the natural foliage of the trees, the first thing you're going to notice is texture of leaves, bark, and ground. If nothing matches any of that, you're going to be seen. If you're a real shiny, slick, latex clothing or any kind of smooth, like reflective, that neoprene type stuff, it's just definitely not really the right kind of texture a lot of times, so it could give you away. The color is another big thing. Let's say bright orange, red, certain off yellows. Those are colors that'll probably give you away. It's just like a flare, basically. You see all this green, and you see one little thing standing out there in the woods, and it could even be as small as just a little zipper head, but that'll give you away. So those are some things that you really need to think about. Reflection almost goes in with texture, because anything reflective will either give you away. Quite often you'll see a flash, a glint, or just something shiny in the woods that shouldn't be there. So that's one thing. Shadow and silhouette. Those are big key issues. When you see someone walking along the top of a ridge, for instance, and they have the skyline behind them, you're going to see the silhouette and their absolute shape. So shape, shadow, and silhouette, they almost go all together. Shape, as in you want to be rough, jagged to match the trees, because they're like that quite often. You see the camo paint where they run. I'm going to do a video on the camo, so I'll be adding that in here. But you'll see a lot of times Hollywood, they do it always wrong. It's like sideways or kind of thing. Well, you go out in the woods there, mostly everything's up and down or at an obscure angle, usually going upwards. Those are how trees grow. Branches often go up. If you're cedar, you're going down. So you need to find out where you're going to be hiding, and you want to be, of course, blending into that kind of location. So you actually want to match what you got out there. So you can do your jungle stripes. You go out in the cedar woods, and you're not going to match. You'll match the jungle there in Asia, but you ain't going to match any place around here. So that's another thing to think of. Sound, of course, snapping twigs, coughing, talking, all that kind of stuff. Whispering is worse than talking quietly. You whisper, hey, how's it going? You hear all my S's, and they travel a long distance. This, that kind of a noise. The best thing to do is just, you talk like this. You just talk very quietly. And that's better to do. Try not to talk at all. If you want to do hand signals, this up in the air hand signals like you see on TV, not going to work. If you're giving hand signals and you're doing this, all you're doing is waving to Charlie, and you can get shot. And if you're doing this on a hunt, you're just waving to the deer, you're going to scare them away. What you do is you bring hand signals down low. They're down under, usually lower than the bush line. Bush lines usually come up to about here-ish, usually, sometimes here. So within a meter or so is sort of where you want to keep lower if you're trying to hide. If you're standing up, you want to be absolutely still, and you want to be matching your surroundings, like I said. So just really basic things to really think about. Then we'll go into heat, trail, and smell. Those are often things people don't even think about. Heat, I can see why. Most people wouldn't think about that. In this day and age, it's a real issue. Trail, that's another big issue. You're leaving a trail of where you went, where you've been, giving away evidence. That could be from a campsite, leftover fire. Could be zip tie, like a string tied around a tree to hold your tarp up. Just things like that. What you take in, you take out. And then you cover your trail. Leave no trace. That's really the art of camo. You don't want to show any evidence that you've even been there. Smell is another thing. We'll go into, I'll go into that in just a minute. First thing we'll talk about is this trail thing. That's, like I said, fires, scuffs on the ground from where you're walking, climbing. If you're climbing along rocks with moss on them, you will knock that moss off and give away your trail. So those are things to really think about. Smoke for your fire goes with smell, but just your fire in general can also be seen by heat. So there's some issues there. So maybe not even have a fire if you're trying to stay really stealth. Smell, we'll go into that. That's colognes, soap, body odor, etc. Those can be smelled by animals and also by people. I'm here on Galliano, and I mean, my hygiene's pretty good. I shower every day, sometimes twice. And yet, I smell tourists. I go on a little trail and walk in the woods, and I can smell a tourist quite often before I even get up on them, within 100 feet or so there. If I'm downwind, I can smell their cologne and soap. They smell really sweet, usually. So, it's kind of funny. I didn't notice that so much in the city, because everyone wears it and you're around it all the time, but when you get out in the country, and most of the people here, I would have to say their hygiene is mostly nil, so I smell their BO, but their soaps and colognes are things you really smell. So that's those are issues. Liquor is another thing. If you're drinking, smoking cigarettes, smoking anything, you're going to give away your position because of smell. Drinking, you can booze. The smell of that travels quite a long way, and that'll either attract things or deter things. So it's another thing. Heat. Now we'll get into that. That's another form of trail. Infrared cameras now can pick up heat. Well, probably have for a while. So if you're trying to hide from that, you'll want to not leave footprints of warm footprints, touching things with your hands. You'll leave a handprint, things like that. Certain animals can actually see heat, and will give you away. A lot of reptiles see heat, and that's I mean, that's just something to think about. So, but now if you're trying to hide from man, they can also see heat. There's a lot of even just basic cell phone apps that you can see heat. So if you're hiding in the woods, and you can be cammed all you want, but I'll see your heat, and I'll see a humanoid image of warmth, and you know that's a person, or you can see any other animal that's hiding out there with the same method. So that's another thing. So that's your body heat, your breath. You could be fully cammed, fully enclosed with all your heat. You have a full heat sink thing, so the heat doesn't escape. They've got suits that do that. But your breath is another thing. You'll see this puff, puff, puff. Usually it shows up red on that camera. That's another indicator to, so try and keep your mouth closed if you can. Breathe through your nose. It really helps. And also your scent from your mouth with deer. If you breathe through your nose, it really helps out a bit. So your basic fundamentals to the whole art of cam and concealment would basically be, like I said, motion, texture, color, reflections, shadow, silhouette, sound, shape, and on your side notes, heat, trail, but always remember smell. That's a big one. Well, here's the ghillie, and as you can see, it's all hair on the back. I'll show you the 3 parts. In fact, there should be 4 parts. I don't have my boots made yet, so I apologize. We don't have that bit yet. But anyway, I'll go over this. So, it's all hair, basically burlap. The way you make them, it's real simple, but just time consuming. You've got this garden netting that's inside, and you shoe glue that to your jumpsuit, and you want no more than sort of 3 inches of slack on your netting. So basically my rule was every 4th knot I shoe glued. and that seemed to work. It was a lot of work, but it worked well. So this stuff's in pretty strong condition. Now, as side notes, I would like to say that when you make these, do it in patches. When you add your netting, don't do one big strip of netting and cut it to shape and glue it down. What's going to happen is if you ever have a piece rip, the whole thing's going to rip off and you're going to lose all your work. If you do it in patches, you just lose a section of it, and then it's a lot easier to fix. With the ghillie suits, always maintenance. If you have one, I recommend to make one. Never buy it. You buy it, it's a piece of shit. I guarantee it. You'll spend $200 on a fucking ghillie suit, and it's civilian issue. It's not even real. It's not genuine. They never are, because the thing is they don't make ghillie suits. They are homemade. All ghillie suits are, and if you want a good one, make one. That's all I can say. I can't stress that anymore. So I made this one. It took probably a full year to make, only because I just did little pieces at a time. You could make one in a day. It is possible. I know people who have done it. And the main thing is with your burlap is you want to dye it to your, I say 3 colors at minimal. More colors you go, the more natural it's going to look. So my 3 colors was olive green, light green, and brown. And then we used natural natural burlap, which is like a light brown. And my friend actually dyed up the burlap for me. And something I could have done, but we were working on this together. We were going to do 2 of them. And I finished mine. He never got around to finishing his. But nevertheless, he dyed all the burlap and did a great job. And when you do it, you want to mix your colors piece by piece, and I recommend mixing real things into it, like a little bit of moss. I have old man's beard. I've got this just stuff that gets picked up, that's cedar. Just leave it in there. The more natural shit you got in your ghillie suit, the more real it's going to look. It's going to catch up on a few things, but generally speaking, if you make it right, it's not going to. This one, there's reasons that you don't want the front ghillied. You only ghillie up the back. That's the section that you're not watching your 6, as they say. So, of course, it's going to want that to be well camoed. And you spend a lot of time laying down with the ghillie. These, I can't stress it anymore. This is a slow-moving suit. It's not one you run in. When you run, this shit flaps all around. You're going to give yourself away. You need to stay absolutely still and crawling, if anything. If you're going to walk, you want to walk when there's no one around. If you're walking around and there's people around, you're going to give yourself away. Just plain and simple. So what I've got here is a green jumpsuit, which we painted up. I'm sorry, I got the light right in the way here. I'm just going to move this light because there, that's a bit better. So we've painted it. Sorry, I'm just trying to fuck around with this light here, trying to make it a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So we've painted brown with just spray paint. We painted brown and green to muddy up the front a bit so it was dark and would blend in. Of course, I can always add more paint, which I do intend to. I'm going to put some canvas knee pads and elbow pads on it as well, and we're going to paint those up really good. But this is it for now, and it does work. I've had an eagle land within 3 feet of me wearing this suit. I was just sitting there in the chicken coop waiting for a predator. Thought it was a coon that was killing them, and sure enough, a young eagle came right in and landed almost on top of me, and I was wearing this. Of course, when I moved to look at it and realized I was there, and it flew away. So yeah, now the 3 parts I have made is, of course, the suit. The suit, it's all the back is camoed. I went around to the shoulders, put on just a little bit around the shoulders. Rifle sits here, so you don't want too much ghillie there. It's just going to be slippery. So I have a bare patch to rest my rifle, and I could have done a little bit more on that side, just a little bit, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to just keep it symmetrical in this case, because this is for varmint killing. It works good enough. But of course, if you have it asymmetrical, it's most likely to give away your position, so it's just something to think about. But of course, this is laying down. This side's always on the dirt, so it works perfect. And the reason you want this bare is that when you're sliding around on your belly, you don't want to get hung up on things and have sticks going through the netting and either ripping it off or you're getting caught up on brambles and God knows what. So the ghillie suits I've seen that these kids are wearing for airsoft, not the real deal. They need to be bare on the belly. So anyway, next thing I have are some gloves. I just ghillied up a pair of gloves, took them, sort of camoed them up a little bit more, added my own permanent coloring, a little green and brown to the light areas, and kept the black. I like these because they've got nice grips on them, and you just ghillie up the front, and that works very well. It covers your hands, and you look just like the grass. You don't see these gloves sitting out of a ghillie suit. So got 2 of them made. And then of course the headdress. This was a lot of fun to make. It was quite simple. I just took an old ball cap, which happened to actually be camo on the inside. It was a racing stock car racing stock car ball cap, I guess. Anyway, it was starting to wear out, so I put a coating on it, which was just this green material underneath. And the reason I put this underlay here is that this stuff can get itchy. This stuff, when it's rubbing around your shirt and stuff, kind of tickles and itchy. So this just stops that from irritating me. It's just a comfort thing. And then some of the leftover stuff I cut into shreds, almost like the bush rag method. And then glued the netting on it and put all this ghillie on it with natural foliage. There's grass in here, and also, as you can see, the old man's beard. So that's the ghillie suit. I'm going to be wearing this when I do the art of camo. I'm going to put on the face paint and show how that's all done. The only thing I would like to add to this is a pair of spats. Those are boot covers that are ghillie, of course, so I can just put them over my combat boots. I don't actually have to take a pair of shoes and glue ghillie stuff to them. That is also an option, but it'd be really nice to have the spats, and then I can just go over regular boots and not have to waste a good pair of boots. I could wear old runners, sure, but the runners don't give you the support the combat boots give you. So I just like to wear the combat boots, but I don't want to mess up my combat boots. So like I said, I would really like to make a pair of spats. Well, this is bush rag. This is my paintball suit. As you can see, I've just taken this green colored t-shirts and pants and whatnot and cut them into strips and tied them on. It was as simple as that. This is the lazy man's ghillie, like I say. The British use this quite often, and I believe the US Marines do too. They might do the ghillie now, but I do insist, I keep saying, it's a Canadian invention. Look it up. It was first ever used in Canada, the actual burlap sacks, as far as documentation goes. So that is a fact. Sorry to bust your bubble, but that is a fact. So anyways, this here is the bush rag. I made this before I made the ghillie suit. This was for paintball. I do the Tipman challenge usually when it comes, and sometimes I wear this. So I've got the full back, all just shredded rags, and you don't want them really long. Same thing with the ghillie, is if they're really long, they're going to get draped up and caught up on things. You need it short, no more than 4 or 5 inches, 6 inches absolute max. And with this one, I've just sewn them all to British paracombats. I went to Scotland and was there doing exercises and stuff. I went overseas on exchange with the Seaforth Highlanders. And as I was there, I did a lot of training. In fact, some SAS members were doing the instructing. So technically we were trained by SAS, which is kind of cool. And anyways, the combats were given to me for free while I was there. All of us each got issued a pair, and we were able to keep them and bring them home. So when I got home, the pants fit a little bit tight, and instead of just chucking them out, I decided I would make myself a bush rag suit out of them, because they fit perfectly for that. So here it is. And I've just, done the same thing. I've sewn fake leaves and fake bamboo leaves just to look like grass and stuff like that. and this suit works pretty good. The ghillie suit definitely works better, but when you're on certain piles of leaves, or especially in the paintball range, it works great. Everyone's got foggy goggles anyway. So yeah, just wanted to quickly show that. I do have the bush rag, but I'm really have more pride in my ghillie suit. But of course I would not use my ghillie suit for paintball. It just adds too much padding, the balls don't break properly. And I find the ghillie suit is a lot more maintenance, so why waste it on, by having to clean the paint out of it. The bush rag's a lot easier to clean, you just throw this into the wash machine. The ghillie suit you cannot throw in the wash machine. You sort of never wash your ghillie suit, so that's why it's the way you do wash it is you basically go into a pond, a lake, or ocean, and you either wash it that way or you put it on and you go swimming. So those are pretty much how you clean your ghillie. But the bush rag can just go right into the wash machine. So there are pros and cons to both. And here's the paintball mask. I just basically just very easily tied it to the holes in the full face mask, and it works pretty good. Well, just a quick comparison of the two gloves. These are my paintball gloves. These are my ghillie gloves. The paintball gloves, I could sew some bush rag on here, and I'm definitely thinking about doing that. They're just spattered with paint, but anyways, they just give a little bit of extra camo and protection for when the paintball hit your hand. They don't break the skin necessarily. My skin is pretty leathery tough, but sometimes, you know, those extra hopped up balls sometimes do give a little bit of a nick, so it's good to wear gloves. And the ghillie gloves, just more for camo and grip on the rifle, and warmth, of course, because I do a lot of my calls and whatnot during winter, and definitely nice to have gloves. So just a difference. You could always use cut gloves and whatnot. It doesn't really matter. Just if you have exposed skin, it's a good idea then to camo your skin up, as to just leaving the bare pinky white flesh that I tend to have. So anyways, just some thoughts on more on the camo. It's always good to have your hands cammed. As little skin exposed is best. Okay, well right now, I should say, what we're going to be doing is applying cam stick to the face. I've already got my ghillie partially on. I'm going to be putting on the headdress and all that shit. Right now, it is the art of camo, and I'm going to show you just quickly as you look behind me. See how everything is mostly vertical and slightly slanted? Well, that's how we're going to try and replicate our background. So, first thing you do is you want your base coat, and I recommend going, well, it depends which part you're applying to. Now, when you go with your base coat, you want your dark sections to bring out into light. You want your light sections, like as you can see, this natural sunlight shines on my nose, up around the top of my forehead. In those areas, you might want to make a little bit darker. So, with your base coat, you sort of go with mid-range, and that's this light olive green in this case. I've got light green, olive green, and brown. Those are my three colors, like I said. You can always go with more colors, but you want your basics to be 3. If you go with 2, it will still work. You can even go with 1 color, but it's sort of like the same principle as this 1 color, and it will stand out to some degree. So even if you made it all green, it's going to help better than, of course, my pinky face. But generally speaking, if you go with smaller sections, it's going to splotch out your pattern. That's why most animals that are camouflaged, like frogs and things, are splotchy. And the doe, it's got dots and things. It helps break up the shape and try and distort things. So with these cam sticks, they're military issue. The trick to applying them is you heat them up with the lighter a little bit. You don't want to go too hot because you're going to burn your face. And I'm going to work up and down in this case because I'm North America and this is my base coat. And I only need to do my face in this case because I'm going to be wearing my ghillie hat and fully cammed. And you don't want to be exactly symmetrical. Because if you are, what's going to happen is you're once again going to have that shape. So you're trying to break it up as much as you can. So there. Now we're going to take some light green and I'm going to go into my eye sockets with it to bring out that dark section. It's almost like makeup. It's the only kind of makeup I'll ever wear. And if it gets a little stiff again, you can always just heat it up again with your lighter and just make it so it's malleable and it goes around. I don't know about other camo paints. I'm allergic to most most face paint and stuff. So, but however, I can use this stuff. It works okay. I don't get the rashes from it. Go down this side of the face and might as well right there. And the trick to taking this stuff off is shaving cream. Works really well. You just lather up a bunch of shaving cream on your face and you can this stuff comes off no problem. So and you kind of want to look like a mud pie. It's nothing pretty. Proper camo is sort of not symmetrical and it sort of is messy. And the reason for that is you don't want to be recognizable. So, there. And now I'm going to use a bit of brown to help break up the shape and hopefully match these tree branches that are behind me. Go on the tip of my nose a lot with the brown. Right there. And you sort of never do it always the same way. It's good to you sort of change it up a little bit. I find if you just do it the same way all the time, you sort of start doing too good of a job. And of course, if you do too good of a job, it gives you away as well. So, but anyway, I'm not going to get too elaborate in this because I am wearing my headdress. It's going to cover most of it. I just don't want my face to give away. I notice quite often my neck often needs to be done a bit better than normal because it tends to stand out with the ghillie hat because this area is usually bare. I guess I could wear a scarf. You can always wear the handkerchiefs and stuff like that. It helps. So there. Now what you're just going to do is you're going to take your hands and just run it up and down, and that's good enough. That'll do just fine. That'll keep me hidden. And what you do with your ghillie stuff, like the hat, I like just drag it around in the dirt a little bit, and that helps pick up some of the natural foliage as well. And we'll put that on. Shake your head about. In fact, before I do this, I should probably put my sleeves on. Do up these buttons here. This is sort of important because you're trying to conceal yourself as much as possible. I have this little collar thing that can come up a bit. And then the ghillie hat goes on, along with the ghillie gloves. And grab the rifle. We're pretty much ready to rock and roll. Now, with the rifle, there's a few things you can always do. I only cammed it so far. You can, of course, ghillie up the rifle. It's going to work so much better. These issue here, this is texture. Might want to take those off. Chuck them out.
don't chuck them, but just chuck them to the side. Don't go on your recon with them. Those are just the scope covers. There's no reason for them. If you're going to be sitting there, you want your gun to be accessible anyway. So the next thing I would do is probably cam up my gun, but that's going to be a whole other video. And now to find a proper sniper's nest. But that's another day too. So I'm going to show you pretty much how to move and how to and how not to. Hey guys. Well, I got out of the ghillie suit just to show you some basic procedures of how to move around. Right now what I am doing is called stealth walk. What I'm doing here is I'm very gently placing my feet down. Heel, I rock to the outside of my foot and move towards my toe. A lot of people think it's heel to toe. You're wrong. It's heel to the side of your foot to the toe. And the reason for that is what you're doing is you're feeling for things first of all. See this stick here? If I just step down, see? Making a lot of noise, just stomping on sticks and shit. So what you want to do is, if you're feeling a stick, move your foot away from it and put it down somewhere else. And you can scrape away some of the leaves very gently and place your foot down. You can step on rocks, that's good. Of course this one with moss, if I were to slide, I leave a scuff, gives away a trail. So you want to keep that in mind. I mentioned that part of the cam and concealment. So it's a very basic, this is stealth walk. And it's going to make a tiny little bit of noise, but you'll be able to sneak up on your prey pretty good this way. It doesn't sound like the tromp, tromp, tromp. It's more like rustling of leaves, if anything. So that's the stealth walk. And it does work. There are other methods too. And now carrying the rifle, as far as when you're on a patrol, there's of course this way, but that's going to get very tiring. If you cradle the rifle down here, you're going to save a lot more energy and you'll be able to cover more distance. The other method I like to show is you cradle the rifle this way and you go into what I call is the leopard crawl. In leopard crawl, there's two ways of doing it. You'll always want to be in the low section of the dirt. So I'm in prone pretty much to start with. And I'm in a dip, which is good. It'll cover you a little bit better. And when you're in prone, one leg comes up, usually on your shooting side. It's going to help brace you, because with heavy recoil rifles, you're going to slide backwards a little bit, especially if you're like this. Another thing is you want to keep your heels down. You keep your heels up. I don't know if you can see it, my legs flapping around or whatnot. It's going to totally give away your position, along with a big lumpy heel. So you want to lay your heels flat. The next thing to do, cradle your rifle in your arms. It's going to be a lot easier to move. And to move, pretend I'm in the ghillie, is what it is I lift up on my elbows and I'm going to slide myself forward and push off with my toes. Just like so. And it's going to take some time to move, but you got all the time in the world if you're hunting, as far as stalking goes. If you get up too fast, move, you're going to give away your position, and you're going to scare the hunt, which totally makes it useless. So, you want to sneak up on it, it's all about patience. So, like so. And you're also observing as you're looking around. Want to change position? Just do it in increments. You have to move quick. Another method, to go on the elbows. That's another one. The other one is on your back. You cradle the rifle and you basically move. I'm going to move down the hill in this case. And you're rocking around on your shoulder blades. And you want to keep your toes as flat as possible. So, as you can see, there's many ways of moving around. The prone position, laying down, leopard crawl is of course the best way to go. You're going to keep yourself more concealed. However, it's a lot more energy to move around and it takes a lot longer. So, those are a few things to keep in mind. Stealth walk is probably one of the best things you can do. And another thing is you can always use cover. You got lots of foliage there. The foliage is generally about waist height, sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower. So if you can keep lower than that, you're also going to be covered. You can use objects such as logs. I'll show you a quick little way you can move from cover to cover. The trick to this is you don't move until you have cover, another cover to move to. If you jump out and you don't have cover, you're going to stall. You're going to be right out in the open. So I'll just show you a very quick demo. I'm going to start here. I'm coming in. I'm going to move in here, right like that, all the way down. Move like so. That's if you have to move quick. With the ghillie, the more faster you're moving, the more you're going to give yourself away. That's really something to keep in mind. If you're going slick, such as how I am actually at the moment, you might want to move faster. It's all really what works. But in this case, motion and noise are going to be your biggest enemies as far as cam and concealment goes. So those are a couple things to keep in mind. Another little giver. As I sit here, you can see right on the ground here the shadow. So when you go behind trees, you really need to keep that in mind. So that's pretty much all I've got for how to move and the proper way of sort of reconning in the woods. And as you can see, 10 minutes later, just a quick shower, shave, and all camo gone. Well, I got a little bit of green highlights around my eyes, as you can see. Anyways, that'll come off probably within another shower, but it comes off pretty easily with shaving cream. The thing about rubbing soap in the eyes kind of hurts, so it'll come off. But anyways, shaving cream really takes the camo sticks right off. It helps. You scrub it right in and then get a rag, wet that down with some warm water. So hot water, shaving cream, and a rag, and a lot of scrubbing. And it does take it off. That's probably the best method to remove it. And other than that, that's pretty much the art of camo. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.